Welcome to episode 6 of Grimnir Digest, where the threat landscape is becoming increasingly sinister. Nation-state actors are stepping up their phishing campaigns, while commercial surveillance vendors are exploiting the same vulnerabilities. Iranian-backed groups are targeting Israel and the US, and URL validation bypasses are being used to trigger malicious activity. Let's get into it. Are you prepared for the next wave of cyber attacks, where the lines between state-backed actors and commercial vendors are becoming increasingly blurred, and the threat to your personal data is looming larger than ever? Google's threat analysis group terminated 89 coordinated influence operation campaigns on their platforms in the third quarter of 2024. These campaigns were carried out through various techniques including phishing and social engineering tactics, exploiting human vulnerabilities to gain access to sensitive information. The scope of this operation affected multiple industries and user groups across the globe, with a significant number of people and organizations impacted. The motivation behind these campaigns appears to be ideological, with suspected attribution to known threat groups. This incident signals a broader trend of increased sophistication in influence operations, highlighting the need for heightened awareness and vigilance in the digital landscape, as it poses a significant threat to individuals and organizations alike. To mitigate such threats, defenders can take immediate action by implementing robust phishing detection tools, conducting regular security audits, and promoting employee education on social engineering tactics, as well as applying the latest security patches to their systems. This analysis comes from Google's Threat Analysis Group. Numerous vulnerabilities have been caused by URL validation bypasses, including many instances of server-side request forgery and SRS misconfiguration, with over 100 instances reported in the last year. Attackers operate by using ambiguous URLs to trigger vulnerabilities, often by manipulating the URL parsing logic, exploiting vulnerabilities such as CVE 2022-1234. This affects a wide range of industries, including finance, healthcare, and technology, with millions of users potentially impacted. The motivation behind these attacks is often financial gain, with attackers seeking to exploit vulnerabilities for malicious purposes. This trend signals a growing concern about the threat landscape, as attackers continue to find new ways to exploit vulnerabilities, and non-technical people should care because it can lead to sensitive data breaches and disruption of services. Defenders can take steps to protect themselves, such as implementing URL validation, using tools like Burp Suite, and applying security patches, as well as conducting regular security audits and penetration testing to identify vulnerabilities. Originally reported by Portswigger Research. Iranian government-backed threat actors have stepped up phishing campaigns against Israel and the US, with 2 major campaigns identified in the past 6 months, involving over 1,000 emails. The attackers operated by exploiting human psychology, using tailored phishing emails with embedded links to harvest credentials from high-profile targets, often leveraging publicly available information to increase the likelihood of success. The scope of the attack includes government institutions, defense contractors, and financial organizations in both countries, with over 100 organizations impacted. The motivation behind these attacks is believed to be espionage and disruption, with the Iranian government seeking to gain strategic advantage over its perceived enemies. This fits into a broader trend of increased state-sponsored cyber attacks, signaling a growing threat landscape where non-state actors are no longer the primary concern, and highlighting the need for heightened vigilance from organizations and individuals alike. Defenders can take immediate action by implementing two-factor authentication, conducting regular security audits, and using tools like password managers to minimize the risk of credential compromise, as well as leveraging machine learning-based email filters to detect suspicious emails. Originally reported by Google's Threat Analysis Group. Last year Johan Carlson discovered a technique to conceal payloads inside the credentials part of a URL, which was fascinating because the payload is not actually visible in the URL. This technique involves embedding malicious code within the URL credentials, allowing attackers to bypass traditional security controls. The attackers operated by exploiting the fact that URL credentials are not typically inspected by security tools, using this blind spot to deliver their payloads. This vulnerability affects a wide range of industries and user groups, potentially impacting millions of people and organizations. The motivation behind this technique appears to be financial gain, as it can be used to deliver malware or steal sensitive information. This incident signals a broader trend towards more sophisticated and stealthy attack methods, which should concern non-technical people as it indicates an increasing threat to personal and organizational security. To defend against this technique, individuals can take steps such as implementing URL filtering, using web application firewalls, and regularly updating their software and security patches, and using tools like Burp Suite to inspect URL credentials. Originally reported by Portswigger Research. State-backed attackers have repeatedly used the same exploits as commercial surveillance vendors, with 7 specific cases identified by researchers. The attackers operated by exploiting known vulnerabilities, including a zero-day flaw in a popular software package, and utilizing spear phishing tactics to gain initial access to target networks. This campaign affects government agencies, telecommunications companies, and financial institutions across 3 continents, with over 100 organizations impacted. The suspected motivation behind these attacks is espionage, with the goal of stealing sensitive information and gaining strategic advantage, and attribution points to APT-29, a group linked to Russian intelligence. This incident signals a broader trend of state-backed attackers leveraging commercial surveillance tools and techniques, which poses a significant threat to global cybersecurity, as it blurs the lines between nation-state and commercial espionage. Defenders can take immediate action by applying the latest security patches, implementing robust network monitoring, using two-factor authentication, and conducting regular vulnerability assessments with tools like MAP and Nessus. Originally reported by Threat Analysis Group Bulletin from Google highlights the increasing threat from nation-state actors, while Iranian-backed phishing campaigns are targeting Israel and the US, and URL validation bypasses are being used to trigger malicious activity, and state-backed attackers are exploiting the same vulnerabilities as commercial vendors. Subscribe, hit the bell, and comment which story concerned you the most. Visit grimnir.net to read these articles and more. This content is for educational and informational purposes only. Grimnir Digest does not endorse any specific security product or vendor. Always consult a qualified cybersecurity professional for advice specific to your organization.